I want to thank you all for tuning in this morning. Um, Before I jump into the actual message I want to get across, basically, I am an average everyday guy and I try to make videos when I can. And unfortunately, I just cannot always make a whole lot just given work and things like that. I'm an everyday working guy, and as a result, I just don't always have the time. I happen to be an everyday working guy in the great state of Illinois. The sad thing about the great state of Illinois is that it has been rated as the least fiscally stable state. And basically, what it come down to was a lot of it deals with our debt. It's estimated 130 billion, but measured as 102, as high as 250 billion last summer, and it resulted in the state basically being considered near junk rating. And the bad thing about that is, whenever you get down to it, you've got to understand there are a lot of problems in the state of Illinois, and the question is, how do we fix them? Well, one thing I want to jump into and kind of show you is this. First off, you have to realize the state of Illinois is actually has got two parts of its legislature, just like the federal government. The issue is that the House of Representatives, just like the federal government, represents directly to people. 108,000, almost 110,000 people. There are 118 of them. Majority of them are Democrat, and in fact, you find pretty quickly majority of them are in Chicago. If you look at the actual mapping of the districts, I don't know if this is the most recent because it seems like it changes all the time. But what you have is you've got a spaghetti mess up here in Chicago of just districts piled in. It's really a population sink, and it's a really good reason why you need a balance to it, like what is at the federal government, why you have an electoral college and things like that. Because all these people down here, these, I don't know how many, I'm not going to waste the time to look them all up, but this number down here, they really don't count because there's just so much of this up here. The problem is, in the state of Illinois, you also have got the Senate is also directly tied to the population of the people. So guess what? Proportionally, it's about the same representation. There's 59 of these total. Majority, once again, are Democrat and minority Republican. And if you take a look at the district map, you get kind of the same thing once again, where in you have got a number of people, probably a third of them, are no longer really even represented because they cannot simply outvote this area. Now, this of course is covered over. The reason why, look at this spaghetti mess. It's insane. All of this up here is really kind of fits in with one great word called gerrymandering. If you look at just the 4th congressional district of the state of Illinois, it doesn't even make sense. It just does not even make sense. And the thing is, whenever you get down to it, the Southern Illinois part of the state really just cannot outvote this. And it has no real representation because of the way the Senate is set up. So to fix the state of Illinois, what you have to actually do is you need to set the Senate, much like at the federal government, to a representation of counties. In the Senate at the federal level, every state has 2 senators. I don't think it would be a bad idea to have every county have a senator or 2 to change this body to help to bring balance back to the state, because the way it is right now, you've basically got a population sink that dictates to the remainder of the state what it will do, continually doing nothing more than raising taxes and making things worse in this state. We are much like California, where basically the idiots are running the train, and the people who have the common sense, who have the will to want to change it, they're just outnumbered. Sadly, it's just the way it is. The other issue is that Southern Illinois really does not wish to really associate with Northern Illinois much at all anymore. In fact, what I find interesting is that there has been a growing secessionist movement in Southern Illinois where they are wanting to break off and form their own state. Now, that is probably the better route, and the reason why is because right now there's gridlock. Even with the Democrats having massive control, there's still gridlock. They still cannot accomplish things to actually fix stuff. And as a result, if you can't accomplish things whenever you're basically all on the same team, how do you expect to accomplish it whenever you actually give more power to areas of the state that have basically been ignored? And I don't think it's possible. The other side and the other part of the coin is that If you allow the remainder of the state to leave and basically allow Chicago to become its own state, which it has in the past voted to do, you would actually have a very interesting question. What do you do with the debt? The debt's estimated to be at what, 200 and let's just call it 250 billion. What do you do with that debt? And I have a suggestion. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but you have to figure roughly 1/3 of the people in the state of Illinois are from an area they're basically not represented at all. I looked up one of the last times that there was a vote on raising the taxes, and unfortunately, there were Republicans who did vote to raise taxes as well. Majority of them did not, but there were still some. And what's interesting is I think that if you actually go ahead and split the state, and if you take and allow Chicago to keep 2/3 of the debt and the lower part of the state to only take 1/3, basically make it equal out to the way the representation works up there. Now, granted, not all the state may want to come and separate, but it's just a general idea. Make it proportionate to the amount of actual representation. The thing is also, majority of the South has voted against all of this. Majority of the southern districts have voted against majority of all the tax increases. Maybe not all, but most of them have. And so maybe we should not take any of it. But either way, something's got to give, because what we are doing right now is basically destroying the state. And it's not going to be long before the state has got a major fiscal and financial meltdown. Living here in Illinois, I know for a fact that there are schools who are unfunded, who are not being taken care of by the state, but yet meanwhile the state just keeps demanding more and more money. And the great question is, where is that money going? And the only answer I have is that it has to be lining someone's pockets. Well, so the answer, how do you fix the state of Illinois? There's two possibilities. You have to split the state, or you have to bring the Senate into line with more of a copy more so of what is actually at the federal level. And I think that honestly that's probably too late for that. Thanks for tuning in.